So hi, once again, I want to thank everyone so much for being here. My name is Tana Mahar. I'm the current Eco-AmeriCorps member for Friends of Northern Lake Champlain, and my co-host for tonight is Sarah Gratz. She's the current Eco-AmeriCorps member for the Northwest Regional Planning Commission. So a few housekeeping items just going into this. The webinar is being recorded, so this will be a great future resource, sorry, and will be going up on the Franklin Stormwater Collaborative website. A link to the website will be placed in the chat section, so folks will have easy access to that. Please feel free to type any questions. We also have a little Q&A box, so that's another good resource for getting your questions answered. We also have a couple pre-written questions at the end. And last but not least, feel free to unmute during the last Q&A session if there is anything that comes up. And now I'm going to kick things over to Lauren Jenness of Lake Champlain Basin Program.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna hopefully get situated. Can everyone see my presentation screen?
Yep.
Yep, okay, great. So I cannot see all of you, so but I'm listening if anyone has anything to say. So hello, I'm very happy to be here and glad we are all together this evening. And I want to thank the Northwest Regional Planning Commission for hosting this meeting about Streamwise. So my name is Lauren Jenness Kneen, and I work for the Lake Champlain Basin Program coordinating Streamwise. And if you don't know, the Lake Champlain Basin Program is a congressionally designated initiative designed to bring Vermont, New York, and Quebec together for the management of Lake Champlain and its watershed at the federal, state, and local level. We have offices, we have our office in Grand Isle, Vermont, and we also staff the resource room at the Echo Leahy Center at the Burlington waterfront. So Streamwise is a new program out of our education and outreach efforts. It's a free and voluntary property assessment and awards program for non-agricultural land located along rivers and streams in the Lake Champlain watershed, designed to bring neighbors together to protect and restore healthy waterways. We provide funding to local organizations such as Friends of Northern Lake Champlain and the Franklin and Grand Isle County Natural Resource Conservation Districts to conduct Streamwise and provide the free and voluntary on-site consultations with recommendations to landowners and land managers. Excuse me. Led by a consultant team whose logos are on the screen, the LCBP, we brought together federal, state, and local level partners from Vermont, New York, and Quebec to be engaged in developing the program, drawing upon current research, riparian buffer programs across the country, and existing regulations in Vermont, New York, and Quebec. And the idea for Streamwise was first proposed to us by Will Eldridge, who's an aquatic biologist at the Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department. So what is Streamwise? The goal of Streamwise is to inform and incentivize communities within the Lake Champlain Basin to engage in activities that enhance and protect water quality, aquatic and riparian habitat, and increase local community flood resilience. We provide free on-site consultations. It's a voluntary award program that targets residential properties. We leverage social marketing using social media and print materials, and it's an awareness campaign and assistance resource for our communities to be Streamwise. The rationale behind Streamwise for Lake Champlain Basin Program funding is that modeling completed by 2010 indicates that stream bank erosion accounts for approximately 18% of the annual phosphorus load that gets to Lake Champlain. Rain events like the heavy thunderstorms we had this afternoon and major storms and floods like what we experienced last summer are when most of the water, sediment, nutrients, and pollutants on our land flow downstream in rivers to Lake Champlain. For example, the week starting on July 10th, 2023, the Lamoille River delivered more phosphorus to Lake Champlain than in all of 2022. And the new 2024 State of the Lake Report, released on June 5th, reports that roughly half of the recommended annual phosphorus load was delivered to Lake Champlain from all of its rivers from July 10th to July 16th, 2023. So across the Lake Champlain watershed, the LCBP is a partner in promoting ways to shore up our stream banks to prevent excess erosion flowing downstream during large rain events. Streamwise is a tool that can empower stream communities to improve water quality, increase flood resilience, and create native habitat that supports healthy ecosystems. So the Streamwise process starts with local outreach. This summer, you may see online and in-person promotion of Streamwise via the Streamwise Champlain website and social media accounts, as well as by staff, e-news, and social media hosted by the Lake Champlain Basin Program, Friends of Northern Lake Champlain, and the Franklin and Grand Isle County NRCDs and other partners. We piloted Streamwise 2 years ago in 2022 and had 2 organizations participating. They conducted 15 Streamwise assessments and awarded 10 landowners with the Streamwise Award. Last year, we had 10 groups participating who conducted 76 Streamwise assessments and gave out 42 Streamwise awards across the Lake Champlain watershed. This year, our team is even bigger. We have 13 organizations participating, and altogether we plan to conduct just over 100 Streamwise assessments. And we hope that members of all of our local communities join in this effort. So through Streamwise, what are we trying to create? We're trying to create 50-foot wide stream buffers composed of native vegetation that supports animal and fish habitats. We look for multi-tiered tree canopy or the natural community, such as a wetland, that would slow down water during a storm and that has a strong root system in place in order to hold the stream bank in place. We're looking for no or minimal impervious surfaces near the stream, such as roofs, decks, driveways, and grass, as those surfaces do not infiltrate water during a large storm event. While out doing a Streamwise assessment, a trained Streamwise assessor from a local organization would look at 3 primary criteria, which is buffer width, buffer zones, and buffer vegetation. For buffer width, if a property is greater than 1 acre, we are looking for at least a 50-foot wide buffer along the entire stretch of their stream. Assessors also look to see that there is a maximum of only 10% of the buffer that has development in it, including lawns, structures, decks, and patios. All of this development cannot be within the first 15 feet from the stream's edge, as that zone is especially important for stream resiliency and habitat. Assessors walk the entire length of the stream buffer, looking for if any water coming from the rest of the property is concentrated, causing erosion into the stream. Any access points to your stream should be minimized and designed to infiltrate water or direct water to a vegetated area. For buffer zones, there are 3 zones identified for a properly functioning stream bank based on all of the literature reviewed. The stream side zone is 15 feet from the stream's mean high water mark. There should be no disturbance in this zone except for access paths and some limited limbing up of trees for views. The vegetation should provide a stable root system that holds the stream bank soil in place, preventing erosion during large storm events. The middle zone is between 15 feet to 50 feet from the stream. There should be limited human-caused disturbance in this zone, up to 10% allowed to get the Streamwise Award. At least 70% of the natural tree canopy cover should be maintained, and any vegetation below 3 feet should also be maintained. The upland zone is beyond the required 50 feet buffer for obtaining a Streamwise award. A trained Streamwise assessor will look at this area to ensure that all rainwater heading downslope towards the stream is infiltrating into the soil and not causing any erosion. The final category is buffer vegetation. When assessors look at the vegetation along a stream bank, they look for what would normally be associated with the predominant local natural community type. Is the land naturally wanting to be an evergreen forest, a wetland marsh meadow, a woody shrub swamp, a rocky ledge? For a forested ecosystem, 5 tiers of vegetation should be the aim. The canopy layer is tall, mature, deciduous, and evergreen trees that create structure and canopy cover. The understory layer is saplings and sufficient replacement trees, small understory trees, and tall shrubs. The shrubs layer is low-growing deciduous and evergreen woody shrubs. In the ground cover layer is herbaceous vegetation, including native grasses, sedges, flowers, ferns, and mosses. The final layer, the duff layer, is all of the organic material on the forest floor, including leaves, twigs, dead plant material, fallen trees, fallen tree limbs, and mushrooms. All of these layers are very important for animal and fish habitat. Also in this category, Streamwise assessors look to see if native plant species comprise 75% or more of the buffer area, as invasive species do little, if not harm, the natural environment. There also should be no pesticide or herbicide use on the property unless recommended by a professional to remove invasive species. So after a Streamwise assessment is completed, the landowner is provided a comprehensive Streamwise report on their property. This documents site features, positive things happening on the property, any recommendations to be made after touring the property with the landowner, and also a comprehensive set of resources and materials that you can all use to be Streamwise. If a property meets all of the criteria within the assessment itself, the landowner is provided a Streamwise award for best management practices in a vegetated buffer. This is a physical sign that a landowner can proudly hang on their property, indicating they are Streamwise and inviting their neighbors to come join in with them. We also have a number of physical handout outreach materials that we distribute, including the postcard, which you see on the screen. In addition to these physical materials, the Streamwise Champlain.org website houses a number of online resources for property owners living along rivers and streams. These resources range from comprehensive manuals like what you see on the screen to individual recommendations for certain types of practices. The Shoreline Stabilization Handbook, as well as the Vermont Guide to Stormwater Management and the Rain Garden Manual you see on the screen is published by Lake Plant Champlain Sea Grant. And the Living in Harmony with Streams notebook is published by Friends of the Winooski River. And the Creating a Riparian Buffer Tree Planting resource was created by the Lake Champlain Committee. So the next series of slides is just a simple overview of 8 simple steps you can take to be Streamwise. This is our 8 steps for streams. The first step is to widen your vegetated buffer. The wider the natural vegetation along a river or stream, the better for water and wildlife. There are simple 3 ways you can do this, such as creating a no-mow zone and letting just the natural vegetation come up. Or you can augment this with native species plantings. And you can also mark off an area to expand your buffer using fencing or other ways to protect this area from disturbance. Step number 2, do not disturb buffer vegetation. The native natural vegetation along rivers and streams including all of the dead plant material, provides a number of benefits to water, wildlife, and flood resilience. We recommend letting your native buffer grow as wild as possible, especially within the first 15 feet of your stream, but ideally at least 50 foot. So we recommend not to mow or weed whack, not to rake, not to remove any fallen woody debris. Leave the duff, leave that organic layer that's on the floor of the florist. That helps build up the soil organic matter on your property that supports nutrient cycling, plant health, and flood resilience because it infiltrates water a lot better. The third steps for streams is plant diverse, multi-layered native vegetation. It's important to look at your property and have a plan for succession. You plant trees, replacement trees and saplings, shrubs and herbaceous perennials, whatever suits your fancy, but also ideally to mimic the natural plant communities that would be found along your property without any human-caused disturbance. We recommend prioritizing regionally native plants and local nurseries that that grow the plants themselves without any pesticides. Step number 4 is to remove or contain invasive plants. The graphic that you see on the screen is called the island removal method, and that is to focus on certain areas for invasive species management and move out in kind of like concentric circles to address the entire buffer over time. Invasive species outcompete native species, create monocultures that don't stabilize the stream bank, and also do not support local wildlife. Step number 5, maintain your view and timber vegetation by practicing limbing up. So we know that everybody really enjoys views, and living along a stream is a beautiful place to be. But instead of cutting an entire tree down or keeping a tree short, what you can do is limb up by cutting the bottom 1/3 of branches to maintain your view. We don't recommend cutting any vegetation below 3 feet to protect the stream bank stability and prevent land loss, as well as making sure that invasive species don't have the opportunity to take over your area. Step number 6, minimize and plan for pathways. Stream access is very important to enjoy the natural beauty and benefits of living along a stream, but wise access to your resource is even more important. We want to prevent erosion getting to the stream by not having straight paths down a slope. We want to make pathways run contour and switch back, and we want any water that's able to fall on a path to your stream to be diverted, either using a stormwater practice like a water bar, or making pathways with more native plant material that soak up water just through their vegetation. Step number 7 is to capture and soak water runoff. Any direct water coming from developed areas on your property, such as lawns, decks, patios, pathways, and other impervious or semi-impervious areas, we want to direct that water into vegetated areas that can slow it down, hold it, and allow it to soak into the ground slowly instead of running off into the stream. Green stormwater infrastructure practices, such as vegetated swales, infiltration trenches, and rain gardens, are useful tools that can be used on your property to save water resources. And the final step is convert channelized runoff to dispersed sheet flow. So all water reaching the stream buffer should be dissipated and spread out, not concentrated, to prevent erosion and to maximize the buffer's efficiency. Practices such as meadow filter strips, vegetated swale, rain gardens, dry wells, infiltration trenches and basins, level spreaders, and other practices can be used to achieve this. So over the past 2 years so far, we've had a lot of positive feedback on Streamwise from the landowners themselves. I'll leave this slide up for a moment so you can read some of the quotes. But a great quote from this team here today is Mel, Franklin County NRCD. They're super pleasant and lovely to work the land with. It's an enjoyable experience, and it's nice to know things that are working well in one area of concern. This is from Annette in Richford, Vermont. This is an overview of the Streamwise assessors looking in your region who are here this evening. We have Friends of Northern Lake Champlain and Grand Isle County NRCD staff. They have grant contracts to do 8 Streamwise assessments this season, and Franklin County NRCD staff who have the funding from the LCVP to do 12 assessments. These are your local Streamwise assessors and know the area around Northern Lake Champlain, Saint Albans, the best, and they're wonderful to work with. And that ends my slideshow. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I'll stop sharing my screen so I can see you all again. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. We did have one question pop up in the chat relating back to those 8 steps. It was, are these steps recommended for seasonal streams as well? And what about silting in?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say that the local Streamwise assessor would be the best resource for you on the ground to find specific practices for your property. But yes, we do recommend having a nice, well-vegetated buffer on seasonal streams as well. And maybe the silting in could be addressed with your neighbors along your stream community. Maybe it's erosion happening further upstream that's causing all of the silt to fill in.
I was the one who asked the question, and the challenge. Hi. The challenge I have with my property is it's a seasonal stream that runs for about 4 to 6 months of the year, depending on snow melt and water runoff and stuff. And I have very flat property in Grand Isle, and these seasonal streams / ditches are, as they silt in. I've been here 4 years, and I've noticed their depth has become less over the time I've lived here, and I'm getting more and more flooding into my yard. And this year it actually got up to one of my buildings. So my instinct is to rent a small backhoe and dig out the silt. But I know that's going to be damaging to the ecosystem, so I'm trying to understand a eco-friendly solution.
Sure. Adam, I do want to connect you with Molly Varner, who's the staff at Grand Isle County NRCD. She would be your main point of contact for Streamwise. I live in Grand Isle too, so happy to come over and look if you want. But you said that the silting was occurring over the past few years, but is less so now, maybe because the stream is reaching kind of like an equilibrium with how much sediment it's taking in?
No, actually, I don't feel that the rate has slowed. I haven't done actual measurements of the rate of silt infiltration, but and I can't control what's upstream of me because it comes from about a 60-acre wood that's not actively managed by anyone as far as I know.
Okay.
So it's a balancing act for me of trying to do what's best for the environment and prevent flooding of my outbuildings. So
great. Yeah, Adam, we'd love to follow up with you after this and maybe set up a Streamwise assessment on your property. It's really dark in my house now. The storm came in. That's better. Any other questions, Hannah?
Yeah, so we did have a couple of prepared questions that we can go through if you'd like to. So the first one we had
Was anyone else presenting? Sorry, I don't want to steal all the question thunder.
oh, we had so we had a Q&A section reserved for the end, but we definitely have more than enough time to plug in a few questions here if that works for everybody.
Happy to.
Great. Okay. So the first question we had was how long does an assessment usually take? And does the person receiving the assessment actually need to be present and at home for it?
We definitely recommend the landowner walking their property with the Streamwise assessor, if at all possible. The landowner is just able to tell things and point out features that like someone wouldn't know if never having been to the property before, but it's not a requirement. And often we start an assessment with the landowner, like getting to know each other, doing a tour, and then the assessor goes off and takes detailed notes on their own and spends a little bit more time looking at the specifics that they are looking for, so they can go out and fill out a really comprehensive Streamwise summary report to give back to the landowner. And in terms of timing, it is pretty dependent on the size of the property and the frontage of stream. We would probably give like 2 hours total for a smaller property and maybe up to 4 hours for a larger property. All Streamwise assessors are trained to do a desktop assessment of a property before they actually go out and talk with the landowner. So if you have any like specific questions or concerns, it's good to relay that to your assessor so they know what they're walking into before actually starting the assessment.
Great. Okay. Another question was, so say a person gets an assessment and it's recommended that they increase the width of their buffer or have more plants. What are the expenses kind of associated with that planting, and what are the sources of funding that they could be able to access?
Sure. Yeah, well, the simplest and cheapest way to go about expanding your buffer is by creating a no-mow zone. And that actually saves you money because you're not gassing up your lawnmower, going out like once a week or so to mow your lawn, at least everywhere. So that is the simplest way to expand your buffer. And then we recommend, if you have the time and capacity, to like augment that buffer with native plants of your choosing. A lot of local groups have tree sales and also have the staff and resources to help with the choosing of plants and planting of trees. So I'll maybe let the other speakers answer specific questions about tree sales and resources, etc. But we, as the Lake Champlain Basin Program, we are a funder of nonprofits and conservation districts to do tree planting and Streamwise related work. So they are the good first resource for you to connect with.
Great, thank you. Well, now I'd love to kick things over to Wendy Scott, who has been a participant in Streamwise, and love to hear what she has to say.
Thank you. Yes, I feel very fortunate because we were able to have the project funded, and we were able to have a whole crew of people come help us help plant. I first heard about Streamwise because I'm on 3 different boards who I normally am one of the tree planters myself. I'm on the board of MRBA and Wild and Scenic and my local conservation commission. And I think I don't even know which one of those groups, I got an email asking, did I know of anyone who may be interested in signing up for Streamwise? And I was trying to think of people, and then I thought, well, what we have a stream, um, and maybe it would be good to do it our stream here. And after 25 years of planting other people's land, it's been really exciting to have it on ours. Our biggest problem on our land is a lot of Japanese knotweed. And so we did the assessment, and I can't say enough for Franklin County Conservation District. And the other people who came, because there was someone from Fish and Wildlife, and I don't know, maybe one of you, I'm not even sure, but it was quite a crew who came to do the assessment. And when I looked at our property, I think I thought there were more trees than there actually are because of, there's some vegetation, but certainly not a 50-foot buffer. And we've had these fields hayed for as long as I've lived here, which is a long time. And so we marked that off and have the 50-foot buffer marked out. And I'm going to, if I can find it, here we go, show the photos from this crew who came. This is a crew of people from the pharmaceutical place in Saint Albans, Mylan Technologies. So this is not even all the people in this photo. They showed up at 9 o'clock, and they literally in 2.5 hours, they planted 775 trees on our property. It was really something. And I have other photos, but here we go. So they just were very enthusiastic and help. And Mel from Franklin County Conservation District had, marked out with these flags that you see here where things were supposed to be planted, and all of the little trees were flagged also. And so that preliminary work helped a lot to make it go smoothly. And I was just so grateful to have that support. So we do have a plan that spans a couple of years and does involve using herbicide on the knotweed. It's just because there's no other way. So the trees are planted, and right now my big concern is that the hay has grown up. And I saw Lauren, your comment about no weed whacking, but I think it needs to be weed whacked around the planted trees so they don't get lost in the hay. So so I feel like given the support that we've gotten, it's a no-brainer, like all that help to plant. If I tried to do that much planting, it would be overwhelming. And we had a much smaller tree planting, and I just didn't keep up with it because it gets consumed so easily. So it's just been a very positive experience, and I'm very grateful. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Wendy, I have a question. I'm sorry, did you say when the trees were planted? Was it this year or last year?
April.
Oh, okay.
This
It's
spring.
too soon for you to report back on how they're doing.
Yeah. That's why I'm worried because, as you know, some of them are very small, And even though they got flagged, we had a big rainstorm after, and I'm just afraid they're going to get lost in the. And another unrelated thing, but my neighbor got a grant to do the bobolink no mow on the field, a field that we share with them. And I just learned today that they came and found two bobolinks. They were in the trees, so they don't know if they're nested or not, but they're not, they're gonna wait till, we're gonna wait till August to mow those fields. So it's pretty cool.
One thing I'll just chime in on is for some of the tree plantings that the Franklin County NRCD does, we do have the funds and capacity to do some ongoing tree maintenance, doing some weed whacking around the trees that we've planted. And I know, Wendy, I just saw an email today about coordinating when we're going to get to your place. And so we will be there, probably a couple
of times. Mel and
times.
said, I'm worried about them getting lost.
Yeah, no, we definitely want to give them a little bit of a competitive advantage, especially while they're getting established and are still tiny. Don't want them to get too lost or choked out. And so that's something, in addition to doing the tree planting, something that, the Franklin County NRCD does is do some ongoing maintenance in the first couple years, some survivorship counts to see, how many of these trees that we planted are still there.
And that maintenance is crucial because without it, you might as well not even plant, really, because they can get so lost. So that, I'm excited about that.
That was going to be my question too, as well, Wendy, but it's too early to tell with the survivorship. I've been planting between 20 and 50 trees each year from the Franklin County Conservation District sale. And I'm learning a lot about which ones are doing well on my property and which ones aren't. Some just aren't making it. Sugar maples don't like my soil, but red maples love it. So it's been a bit of a learning process going through, but I'm getting more and more vegetation into my property, which is good.
Good for you.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Wendy. It was fantastic hearing from you. Now we're going to jump into just a quick little section where we're going to hear a couple of words from the organizations that are conducting assessments in Franklin County and Grand Isle County. I'll start as one of our representatives for Friends of Northern Lake Champlain. So we are very new to this program. This is actually our first year participating, so that's pretty exciting. Myself, along with Caroline and Bridget, who are also in this call, attended a assessor training back in the last week of May. One of our big goals with Streamwise is to really just use it as a really great tool to connect with the folks in the watersheds that we are currently working in. Those include the Rock River Basin, which is just north of the Missisquoi. We have the Mill River down in the Saint Albans, Georgia area. And we also have Fairfield Pond, where we're currently working on a lake watershed assessment. And then, of course, partnering with Molly over in Grand Isle, we're looking to do some assessments in the islands and really get a feel for what these watersheds are looking like. And again, build those connections, really see on the ground. And yeah, it's very exciting. Again, very new. We have some outreach events in the works. We're looking forward to just getting the word out. And this webinar was a great first step in that. And I'd love to kick it over to Bridget or Caroline if they have, and Molly as well, if they have anything to add in where I may have missed.
I'm good. Hannah, you did great. We're looking at, we're hosting our outreach programs at different libraries. So we had one this past week in Alberg. We've got one coming up in July at the Saint Albans Free Library, and then we're working on two more, one more in the islands, and then one more over in the mainland area, so to speak. And so that's kind of what's on deck for us. So there'll be other ways for folks to connect and learn more about the assessments that we're offering. Molly, would you like to add anything as our partner?
Yeah, well, firstly, I'm excited to be participating in this program for the first year and grateful to be partnering with Friends of Northern Lake Champlain. The plan is to kind of go out and do these assessments together, since this is our first year, and I think some of it's going to be a learning process. But we're getting some great training through webinars and in-field workshops to be able to deliver this program successfully. And I also just want to point out, and Wendy provided a really great example of it, is that once these assessments are done, while some of the projects or recommendations may be things that are really easy for the landowner to complete themselves, when they're larger projects, like planting 700 trees, there are resources and fundings that we can then support landowners through to meet their goals that were outlined in the Streamwise program. So it's not necessarily we visit once and you don't hear from us. We want to kind of really help you achieve your goals and improve your streamside habitat and or reward you for the great job you're already doing. So that's definitely something to keep in mind, that we want to make sure you have the tools and we're helping you along in whatever way we can. And should I hand it off to someone else?
Yeah, Dorothy, if you'd like to talk about what Franklin County Conservation District is currently doing, that would be great.
Yeah, so for Streamwise this summer, we are planning on 12 site visits, and I know we've already done a few. I'm not exactly sure how many. I think one thing I just want to add about Streamwise and what I really enjoy about this work is, first of all, like going out and doing the site visits, especially if the landowner is like able to be present for all of that and just like see their property with this like kind of specific lens of like stream health, because when you're looking at the property in that way, some new things kind of stand out. And then also I really enjoy writing up the reports that we give landowners afterwards, because during the site visit, it can be like a lot of information all at once, like in, just maybe a couple hours. And so it's nice to like after the fact have that all written down, and the reports include like the existing conditions of the site, looking at those different criteria for the Streamwise consultation, as well as like the recommendations for areas of improvement or changes that could be made, and also resources. And it's nice to have that all written down to like go back and look at and refer to. And also like, the report includes pictures. And so if you end up doing a project, you can then refer to it later on and see, okay, yeah, look at that change that, we're seeing now, like a few years later, maybe after like implementing a certain project. Yeah. So in addition to Streamwise, we're always doing other, tree planting projects and water quality projects. It's definitely work that we love to do at the district.
Great, thank you so much. And again, thank you to all of you folks for being here. We'd reserved kind of the end of this for Q&A. If anybody has any additional questions or thoughts on this, feel free to unmute or just toss them in the chat.
I just want to confirm the water quality link that Sarah dropped in the chat right at the beginning of this session. Is that also where we find the guides to manage our property? I think it was in, oh gosh, I want to make sure I get it right. Lauren's presentation that she mentioned several guides for homeowners, and I want to make sure I have access to those.
Yeah, so that link is for the Franklin County Stormwater Collaborative website. We do have some of those resources. I think they're on the solutions page.
I see Molly and Lauren just dropped a direct link, which I
Okay.
appreciate.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I just want to make sure I could get those.
Of course. We did have a couple more pre-prepared questions for Lauren specifically, if everyone's okay with a couple more. We are running a bit ahead of schedule, so take a look. Oh, one that I was definitely interested in is with vegetated buffer, is there the possibility that it would attract more ticks, mosquitoes, or other nuisance animals?
Yeah, that's a great question that we field a lot in terms of like raising heights of lawns and increasing native vegetation on properties. Having diverse native species on your property enhances all types of wildlife. So any impact that the native plants would have is positive on an ecosystem. Ticks actually really like hanging out in invasive species and species that are low growing shrubs with leaves. So I would recommend not being afraid of ticks and other animals like that, because just having more of a buffer and more habitat just creates a space for all sorts of wildlife that keeps an ecosystem in check. And that's really what we want to promote through Streamwise across our landscape.
Great. All right, and the last question I had is, will adding a buffer in any way affect property value?
I'm not sure if anyone has specifically looked at like economic valuation study of increasing buffers. If anyone has a research study, I'd love to see it. But just in general, buffers help maintain the land on property, so stream banks aren't eroding. So like rivers through their natural course over time, like meander through their river corridor. So while you're on your stream side property, you may seem just natural movement of your river, and that like might adjust your property line a little bit. But just having a good like soil structure and beautiful like native vegetation on your plants, I would think would be a draw to any like potential buyer of a property.
Makes sense. All right, well, it looks like that concludes what we had scheduled for tonight's webinar. Again, just leaving space for if anybody has any final thoughts or questions, then feel free.
I think I want to make sure that we share that there's a way for folks to get in touch with the conservation districts and Friends of Northern Lake Champlain.
Yeah.
So both FNLC and Franklin County Natural Resource Conservation District have links on their website to Streamwise. And because Grand Isle County doesn't have a website at this point in time, you can visit FNLC's website to register for that. It's under Get Involved. Dorothy, can you share where it is on your website? And you're muted still.
I'm putting that link in the chat.
Awesome. And Streamwise Champlain.org also has a contact tab page of our website, and those emails go to me and to other people, and we always direct you to your local group. So thanks Bridget for saying to get to the FNLC and Franklin County NRC website specifically as well.
Yes, thank you.
And Hannah, you said the chat is going to be shared with everybody after the webinar, or maybe in a follow-up email or post.
Oh, the webinar will be shared. There's going to be a recording of it. The chat, I can definitely try. I'm going to stay on and then compile all the links that we sent, and that'll be a follow-up email.
I just want to mention that Dean Pierce shared an article about the economic value of riparian buffers in the chat.
Thanks, Dean.
That looks really interesting.
It's the quote in there. Riparian buffers generate a price premium for residential property. That sounds like positive.
Absolutely. All right. Yeah, I think that is that on that. Again, thank you all so much for being here. Again, I'm going to stay on a little later just to make sure we capture all the links and great content that everybody sent. And again, that will be a follow-up email. Yeah, again, thank you all so much. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody hopefully at some Streamwise events this summer, or even at some Streamwise assessments.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.